Thanks for staying with us. All right, we still have the minister with us here.
Yes.
Nima has a question. Go ahead, please.
So the last administration again was already doing the 5G network before they left office. How far has it gone? And also, what does your ministry do as regards consumer protection when it comes to these network providers? We have poor services that we pay highly for, and we don't get, the results we intend. For me, for instance, I run a business highly dependent on the internet. I pay hugely, but I don't get the services. I don't get quality service. What do you do as regards things like that?
Again, that's an important question and something that is a priority for this administration. Again, if you check in the blueprint, you see that we're very specific about the things that we're going to do. There are a number of issues around quality of internet and the services that people get in Nigeria. I think most people tend to think that this is all about the telcos just being unruly or doing things to to cut people off the service they should get. But in some cases, actually not just about the telcos. So the first thing first is to understand that the telcos rely on a set of infrastructure that makes it possible for them to be able to provide these services to you. And aside from the base station, you also have things like the fiber optic cable that has been laid. And what most citizens don't get is that there are so many times that these cables are actually destroyed. Those that are digging the road and doing some work on the road will tend to cut the cable. Or you see some of their base station being vandalized by people that are trying to steal things. Every time something of that nature happens, and this is happening in so many places across the country, every time that happens, it puts pressure on their network because it takes away the backbone that provides the quality to you. So you have more people shifting to a certain level of infrastructure that is not meant to take as many people as was projected. And before they then fix that disruption, the service that you're going to get will be poor. So one of the things that we're doing is actually ensuring that Mr. President can declare telecommunications infrastructure as critical national infrastructure, which means if you tamper with them, you probably have to go to jail. And, the reason for declaring it critical national infrastructure is that we don't want people like yourself whose business is dependent on connectivity not to be able to do what they want to do. If we're saying today that everything we do in the world is dependent on connectivity, then we have to all understand that every time we tamper with this infrastructure, that we're actually destroying the backbone that can help us continue to achieve what we want to achieve. The other things we're doing is to improve investment in that space as well, because the more fiber optic cable we have across the country, the better the quality will be. Even the 5G conversation will become something that everyone across the country can have access to. And Nigeria is one of the few countries in the world with what we call the submarine cable, which is the actual cable that brings internet to different countries. And typically you have to lay these under the sea. Nigeria has 9 of those cables now in Lagos. Of course, there's been investments in taking them inroad. For these cables to reach every part of Nigeria, we need to lay 95,000 kilometers of them, which is quite significant. And we have to encourage the private sector to do this. They've laid about 35,000 kilometers thereabout. And part of our mandate in this administration is to ensure that we can achieve about 70% of that 95,000 kilometer target. So we're coming up with policies. We're working with private organizations who are willing to invest to ensure that the environment is conducive for them, that they can bring their money. And our goal is that by the end of the 4-year term, that we can actually hit about 70% of that target, which means a significant portion of the country would have been connected. And once we can see that, and as we do that, it's not something you're going to see in 4 years' time. In fact, every quarter, we're going to be measuring what we're doing, how we're improving that number. And the more we improve that number, the more the quality will go up. But in the meantime as well, we're working with the telcos to ensure that on their part, they can do the right things. Once we're able to declare their infrastructure as critical national infrastructure, that they also do the right thing to ensure that the relationship with customers is actually where it should be, that they can enlighten customers better, they can attend to issues way faster, which I believe a lot of them are already doing. But we have to raise the game because we understand the importance of this sector for our economy.
Okay, I'm going to be taking you back to the question Emma asked earlier. I know you answered it, but I feel that we should dig in a bit more. So we have BVN, we have NIN. These are supposed to be like platforms to ensure that data is properly captured? I was so excited to hear that 90% of Nigerian population have registered their NIN. And if we actually link it to all the lines and then we link it to the banks, it should be able to bring a lot of information together. But how do we ensure data security? There's a big challenge faced in the developed world, which is identity theft and all the ramifications. We haven't even seen the height of it yet. But how do we preempt these things from happening? Number one, how do we unify the data in such a way that I'm not asked to re-register, revalidate? Many people have to do this over and over again. Sometimes you get to the NIN office and they say the server is down. They're not working for a week. Or things like, weird things like that within the ministry. How do we harmonize our data, increase efficiency, and put it to good use?
Well, thank you. Again, I have to, commend the last administration, because I think a lot of work was done around NIN, which is a foundation for us to build on. In terms of how do we harmonize it, I think that's a technical question, which it's not difficult to do. It's really bringing the different stakeholders together to ensure that we can agree on the standard. And this is why we're going through the route of something that is called the data public infrastructure, which was what I explained, when Nima asked that question initially. The goal here is to ensure that we can triangulate the different data set that we already have. If you triangulate across all of them, you will find that you already have everything that you need on every Nigerian, those that have registered. And when I said 90%, that's 90% of the adults, where we still have to register the really young people. But the most important one at this stage first is ensuring that those who are economically active, that we can identify them, which is why it's already a fantastic place to be. In terms of harmonization will happen when we triangulate those data and we have a single system. And this is starting from within government, because we see that different people are collecting data at different points. And to what you were saying about security, that actually makes it difficult for you to be able to properly secure people's data. And one thing that we've done as a nation is that last year, we were successfully able to start a bureau for a commission that is focused on data protection. And their job is to ensure that we're enlightening companies, but also governments in terms of how to protect data. But once we develop our DPI standard, we will have a structure in place that says how data must be harmonized, shared, but also secured as well. And we can then centrally provide leadership and opportunity for different organizations to be, starting with government, of course, but also mainstreaming that in the private sector through the commission that is now being set up and is fully operational.
Right.
That will become the standard that we're promoting. Before now, we didn't have that commission, things were being developed, and that's why everything was all over the place. But with this government looking to ensure that harmonization is a priority, but also with the commission in place, I think you start to see the standard being mainstreamed over the next 1 or 2 years.
All right, let me ask you concerning social media platform, because many countries have barred so many. We didn't know China has barred some social media platforms. Even within the US, some don't even allow TikToks in various states. We have various factors many have considered to ban several social media. Unfortunately, here in Nigeria, it's difficult because we can't regulate. We don't have control over them. Many people are defamed on social media, and we can't even trace the origin of the owner. They're faceless owners of these handles. And because we're not the originator of these platforms, it's difficult for us to trace. What is Nigeria doing to create our own social media or counterpart social media platforms such that we have a bit of control when it comes to stuff like defamation, libel and stuff like that goes on, indiscriminately on social media?
Thank you so much. I think the question around being able to ensure that social media is not a pain to society, that has nothing to do with whether you own the networks or the platforms in your country. For a country like Nigeria, there's clear advantage to having locally developed but also owned platform. There's clear advantage because we're over 200 million people, so there's an economy of scale there. But that's not really what will address whether we're able to manage social media in such a way that it doesn't become a pain to society. Social media is a phenomenon that we all need to understand that it came out of the fact that technology is giving us the opportunity to connect. And if technology is providing opportunity to connect, it means that a lot more people can have connections in the way we've never seen before. right? For those of us who perhaps finish university in, let's say, in year 2000 or before, you find that it was a lot difficult for you to connect with your secondary school, primary school mates. But for those who finished after like 2002, when social media was already becoming a standard, it was almost like they never left, because all your friends are on social media. You can connect with them. You can see what's happening to them. While social media is giving us opportunity to be able to connect with people globally, which means value is being created, it also has its own vices as well. Because as platforms like that, you can't really regulate how people communicate, what people share. But what you can do is to deepen your understanding of it, which is why you see that progressive nations don't necessarily go about banning social media. Progressive nations spend resources in understanding it. Because if you ban it, you start to ask yourself the questions, the network effect that comes with a young person in Funtua who has a business on Instagram and is able to generate value from that business by selling to everybody in Nigeria or even beyond. You know, what will happen to that economic value? You don't want to ban it and you don't want to stop it. If you're creating local one as well, you have to ensure that the network effect is there. So it's about good and bad. And most of the time, the way you manage good and bad in technology is not through banning. It's through ensuring that you have a technical understanding of it. Most social media platforms actually have opportunities for you to be able to track people who are doing bad things on it. And they have rules and regulations that allow government to be able to, you know, work with them to identify those people where necessary as well. So those are the things that we need to improve our understanding of. Perhaps have a local entity that is also monitoring it, which I believe is part of my mandate as a team, so that we ensure that we can allow social media to thrive, allow people to use it for economic and social activities, but at the same time that we're able to ensure that we can protect society from its vices as well. I think that's where we need to be. It's about knowledge. And it's the same thing you find with cryptocurrency as well. While cryptocurrency is useful for individuals, most nations are yet to truly understand how to manage it such that it doesn't affect the sovereignty of their nation. And that's a knowledge issue. We need to study it. We need to have within our ministries teams and entities that actually help nations prepare for it. And that's what we hope we're going to be doing over the next 4 years.
So the question Murayo asked, I don't think because many of us are worried about faceless brands on social media, faceless blogs on social media, putting out content that are false, and we cannot. How would I be able to?
There's one popular one that nobody knows the owner.
Yes. How can I take them to court? How do we deal with those things when they happen, especially for those we don't know? Do we have a relationship?
A blog can hold the whole nation to ransom.
Even for governance sake, as I just mentioned earlier, where false stories are being, peddled as if they are true. And if until someone is able to step in, and sometimes even when you step in, it's too late, people carry the false stories. What is your ministry going to do to, protect the truth, from getting abused on social media?
It's ID. Once you can ID people, and the relationships and the opportunities you have with the platform is that everybody is also ID'd on their side as well, even though people provide fake IDs. So these things can be done. When people use social media, it's not being used without you knowing their location. The platforms also can know this as well. So it's about once we can ID our people better, there's opportunity for us to create linkages that will empower government to be able to protect society from it. And it's also the responsibilities of the platforms as well. Most of them are constantly pushing the barriers to ensure that fake news is being managed, that bots are being detected. As a nation, we would need to build our capacity. If we don't build capacity to do it, to the question you're asking, your answer seems like the only solution is to ban it, which doesn't make any sense. Because even for your business benefits from being able to engage on this platform. The individual businesses, small businesses that are benefiting from it, you can't just take a position to ban a platform because you don't understand how to manage devices. The role of government will be to continue to push our understanding of it. And as we push our understanding of it, as we improve on identity, that we use that understanding to ensure we can protect society. That is the solution. I don't see any other solution. Banning is obviously a solution, but that's not a productive and progressive solution.
All right, let me go on a very short break. When we come back, we continue and wrap up with this. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Stay tuned. Your View will be right back.